Donald Trump says he's safe and well after reports of gunshots described to have been fired in his vicinity.
Hey, America First lovers. Have you heard about the recent golf course drama? Yes, I'm talking about the assassination attempt on Donald Trump while he was casually hitting the green. This shocking incident has people buzzing, and it got me thinking about other legendary assassination attempts that rocked the world. Some of these attacks didn't just aim to take down a leader, they changed the course of history. And who can resist a good scandal, especially one involving world leaders and high-stakes politics? So, in today's video, we'll spill all the tea on the 3 biggest assassination attempts in history. And of course, we are going to talk about how this latest attempt on Trump could impact Groyper War II, Nick Fuentes' effort to push Trump further to the right during his campaign.
Fled the scene. He did not fire or get off any shots.
Let's get into it. Let's dive into the wild story of the assassination attempt on Ronald Reagan, America's 40th president. It was March 30th, 1981, and Reagan had just finished speaking at a DC hotel when John Hinckley Jr. opened fire. 6 shots rang out, and one of them hit Reagan, though not fatally. This wasn't just any shooting. It was an attempt to impress Jodie Foster, the famous actress. Can you imagine? Hinckley believed that taking down the president would win her affection. Talk about delusion. While Reagan was hit, his quick trip to the hospital saved his life, and he was cracking jokes before surgery. Now, the impact of this attempt on US politics was massive. Reagan became a symbol of resilience. His approval ratings shot through the roof, and people viewed him as almost invincible, a man who could stare death in the face and come back stronger. It also gave him a political boost to push forward with his conservative policies. From tax cuts to foreign policy moves, Reagan used this newfound wave of support to solidify his legacy. But what does this mean for Trump? With Groyper War II underway, where Nick Fuentes is rallying his followers to protest Trump's campaign in hopes of shifting him further right, this could be a turning point. Just as Reagan's assassination attempt bolstered his popularity and solidified his resolve, will Trump see this as a sign to realign with the hard right base? After all, he's been accused of pandering to more moderate and even left-wing sentiments lately. Perhaps this brush with danger will remind him that staying true to his principles might be what saves his campaign. However, the flip side is that Trump isn't Reagan. He's already a polarizing figure, and while Reagan was seen as a unifying force after the attempt on his life, Trump may find himself facing even more division. Will the public rally behind him? Or will the Groypers use this moment to double down on their protests, insisting that Trump needs to move even further right? Fuentes' crew has been relentless in pushing Trump to abandon any notion of compromise. And let's not forget, while Reagan used the assassination attempt to his political advantage, Trump's challenge is different. The media landscape has changed, and today's politics are more cutthroat than ever. Social media is likely to explode with opinions on whether Trump should change his approach after this close call. Some may argue it's a sign to soften his rhetoric, but the Groypers will undoubtedly argue the opposite. Now's the time for him to double down on his conservative values. In the end, Trump has a choice. Will he follow in Reagan's footsteps, using the assassination attempt to fuel his campaign with renewed vigor? Or will he cave under pressure, losing the crucial right-wing base that Fuentes' movement represents? One thing's for sure, the stakes are higher than ever, and this assassination attempt could be the defining moment of Groyper War II. Next on our list is the assassination that set the world on fire, literally. I'm talking about the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria in 1914, an event that spiraled into World War I. The Archduke and his wife, Sophie, were on a trip to Sarajevo when Gavrilo Princip, a 19-year-old Bosnian Serb nationalist, fired 2 fatal shots. The assassination wasn't just personal, it was political. Princip wanted to break away from Austria-Hungary and unite with Serbia. Well, he certainly got his wish, but at a massive cost. This assassination didn't just rock a nation, it set off a chain reaction that led to the deadliest conflict the world had seen up to that point, World War I. Franz Ferdinand's death was the spark that ignited long-standing tensions between the major powers in Europe. The assassination was followed by a series of ultimatums, declarations of war, and alliances that turned the continent into a battlefield. In terms of political impact, this assassination reshaped the world. It marked the end of empires and ushered in a new era of nationalistic fervor. Austria-Hungary fell, the Ottoman Empire was dismantled, and even Russia saw its empire collapse, giving rise to the Soviet Union. All of this from 2 gunshots in a car. The world order was flipped on its head, and nothing was ever the same. Now, let's draw a parallel to Trump's situation. While Trump's assassination attempt hasn't, yet, led to global conflict, it's definitely sending ripples through the political landscape, particularly in Groyper War 2. Nick Fuentes and his loyalists see Trump as a key player in the future of American conservatism, but only if he returns to his hardline roots. Could this assassination attempt be the catalyst that shifts Trump's campaign strategy in a way that mirrors the world-shifting effects of Ferdinand's assassination? Just as Franz Ferdinand's death marked the end of old-world politics and the rise of new, unpredictable powers, Trump's near-miss could mark a turning point in the 2024 election. If he listens to the Groypers, this could be the moment he fully embraces the right-wing base, leaving behind the moderate conservatives, who've been hesitant to follow him down the more extreme path. Or, if he ignores them, we might see a new wave of right-wing dissidents emerge, challenging Trump from within his own movement. Either way, much like Princip's shots echoed across the world, the political consequences of this attempt on Trump's life are sure to reverberate throughout the American right, shaping the future of conservative politics, and possibly even the global stage. The only question is, what will Trump do next? The world is watching. Last but certainly not least, we've got to talk about one of the most mysterious assassination attempts in modern history, Joseph Stalin's brush with death. Though Stalin ruled the Soviet Union with an iron fist, several assassination attempts were made on his life, but none as close as the infamous doctor's plot of the early 1950s. This so-called plot involved a group of prominent doctors, many of whom were Jewish, who were accused of planning to poison Soviet leaders, including Stalin. The political climate at the time was one of intense paranoia. Stalin, ever the conspiracy theorist, believed that even his own doctors were out to get him. Though the full details of the doctors' plot remain murky, it's widely believed that Stalin was preparing for mass purges of Jews from Soviet society before his sudden death in 1953. But here's where it gets wild. Many historians now believe that Stalin was, in fact, poisoned by his own inner circle before he could launch another wave of terror. So how did this affect Soviet politics? Stalin's death marked the beginning of the end for the totalitarian style of leadership that had defined the Soviet Union for decades. His successors, particularly Nikita Khrushchev, took a more moderate approach, denouncing Stalin's brutal tactics in what became known as de-Stalinization. The paranoia, the fear, the purges, they all faded away, making room for a slightly more open, albeit still authoritarian, Soviet state. Now, let's bring it back to Trump and Groyper War 2. Much like Stalin's near assassination, Trump's brush with death has the potential to shift the entire conservative movement in the US. Will Trump lean into the far right, embracing the Groypers and their calls for more radical policies? Or will he take a more moderate route to avoid further political division? Just as Stalin's death allowed for a political reformation in the Soviet Union, could Trump's survival be the moment when American conservatism takes a hard look in the mirror? Nick Fuentes and his Groypers hope this attempt will make Trump realize that principles, not pandering, are what truly matter. They want him to stop playing nice with the left and fully commit to the right-wing agenda. But will Trump see it that way? In the end, Assassination attempts have a way of shaking up political landscapes like nothing else. From Reagan to Franz Ferdinand to Stalin, these close calls didn't just affect the leaders, they changed the course of history. And now, with Trump's near-death experience fresh in our minds, we are left wondering, will this incident be the defining moment of Groyper War 2? Or just another blip in an already chaotic campaign season?
Backed by the giant corporations, and they've got the mainstream media, and they've got big tech.
Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure, this political drama is far from over. I hope you enjoyed the video, and let's win Groyper War 2.
And I said this on Saturday, and I'll say it today, and I'll say it every day. They are woefully outnumbered. We have God on our side.